Welcome back to class, dear students. We are starting up another section of our AI enhanced Web3 front-end development course, where I take you from, even if you've never coded before, from HTML, CSS, we went through, and doing real life project that we are trying to build a token minter, full stack token minter. So we built the HTML structure, we built the CSS, style the HTML structure with CSS, and introduce interactivity. As you see it here, we introduce interactivity with JavaScript from the previous section. So we can mint, we can put wallet, we can put token, we have maximum, we can mint, and things like that. So now, as we progress from the previous one, I told you that API is a very integral and important aspect of a dApp, a decentralized application or decentralized website or the web site or the web. Now, because usually you have your smart contracts in one side. Maybe if I can pull that up, we used in previous class. You can remember from the previous intro course you did into Web3, getting you up to speed about Web3. And I told you we are going to, ensure that in the programming university, you go through all these steps. So I believe in something. That's why I founded this platform, that for the fact that you have never coded before or never did anything that before, doesn't mean you should not be able to take advantage of the opportunity in Web3, being a Web3 developer. So all it takes is to give you the basic knowledge you need. And thanks to the age of AI we are entering already, AI tools teach you how to use all these AI tools. That's why all these courses, we use AI tools and encourage students to use it as well. So, and that's done. So that's why I took the time to take you step by step. And here we are. We are almost done with the front. I told you your dApp consists of these three things. Can I zoom in? Cool. So we can see it now that we have the front end, the middleware, and the back end. So now the front end, you need to learn like HTML, CSS, JavaScript, React, Next.js, or Svelte, and things like that. But what really matters is, the HTML, the CSS, the JavaScript. All these are built on JavaScript, React, Next.js, Svelte. All those ones are JavaScript framework. So you need to learn JavaScript first, and that's the order we are taking it. And now you have the middleware, where we also learn about Web3.js or Ether.js, either of the two or both later. Then we also have like Solidity smart contracts. So you can see it, but you see there's always need to be a connection between these, and the connection between them is this. So for this to communicate, this will surely be inside your front end. So for it to be able to take your front end and help it communicate to the backend smart contract on blockchain and get the communication back, somebody wants to mint a token like we've seen here. They try to send to the blockchain to mint and need to get a feedback. Was it successful? Was it pending? Was it cancelled? And things like that. So you will need this. You need the middleware as well. So for you to now make the call, you need to know API, because you deal with API in making interaction with all this back and forth, back and forth. So that's just to show you how important this section is for you to pay attention to. And this crash course I decided to put in, I will take you through every basic essential thing. And like as usual, you also see this this that we have before, we'll be able to do an example that we will pull a crypto price list through API call to be displayed inside our dApp. So if people are minting a token, you might as well want to display, if the token is tradable, what's the current price of the token? You understand, things like that. What's the price of the token they are holding? So you will always need to fetch the current price from platform like that, and then you can multiply it. Like, okay, if you have 100 Solana and I'm able to, through API, get current price, like, okay, one Solana now is about 110 or 115 US dollars. So I'll just, oh, you have 1,000. So just multiply it and give you, like, okay, this token you've minted now, this is the value. And you'll be seeing that the value will be going up and down because it's directly getting price pool from the market and then doing the other thing behind the scene. So those are essential things you need to know, because you need to know why should you learn API as a beginner. Just the same way you learn HTML, CSS, JavaScript, you need to understand API. And API is JavaScript. It's just an aspect of JavaScript that focus on application interface talking to each other. So just want to bring that up. Let's go back here now. Yeah, so we'll learn what's API. App is an acronym of application programming interfaces, are essential to in modern web development, including Web3 applications. They act as intermediaries, allowing different software applications to communicate with each other. In the context of Web3, API are particularly valuable for interacting with blockchain technologies and smart contracts. So precisely that was what I just explained. So all these arrows you see here, take them to be API. So all these arrows, you take them to be, can I have a text here? Each of these arrows so each of the arrow now, let's try and see. Can I just draw one here? Yeah. Good. So each of these arrows you are seeing, they represent an API. Let's duplicate it. Good. So everything you see here now is an API call that's been made. So that helps you to understand it better. That's how significant and important for you to make sure you assimilate what you will be learning in this crash course, because I've tried to, like I told you, gone at those age that you need to know everything, learn it for years. No, just tapping into AI, learn the language, and that's it. So you'll be able to understand whatever the AI is giving to you. Now, we've learned that understanding API enable your application to interact with external server and services. For instance, a web application might use an API to interact to retrieve data from a remote database or a cloud service or a blockchain. This is especially crucial where applications often need to interact with decentralized network or access blockchain related data, like we have seen it here. Now, back to types of API. So what are the types? We have database API, like facilitate communication between an application and database. So, and don't forget, blockchain is also like is purely a database. but not your usual SQL or MySQL database or all those other ones, other database. No, this one is decentralized, the way it's connected. So go and take that course if you have not. I've explained, you see, break down blockchain and how it works, so I'm not going to go into that again. So now it's essentially like a database. So operating system API as well, where your operating system make calls to different aspects of the core system. Remote API use communication network, mostly commonly the internet to interact with different services, web API, subnet, and things like that with standard, and the ability to use HTTP for request message. Now, API release policies. We'll still see this in action. Like I said, we'll be able to integrate into this particular one and display the cryptocurrency prices through the API call. So, but it's good you just have the basic thing. So what are the API release policies? That's why I call it a crash course. Quickly go through the basic to get you up to speed. Now, API can be categorized based on the availability and intended audience. It can be private, used for internal. Partner API are shared within business partner, and public API are available to any third-party developer. And this can be free to use or commercial. Usually, most of them are commercial. Why is commercial is meaningful? Because let me tell you, when people are making call to your database, to your API, they are using your bandwidth and and if you have ever developed maybe Web2 website before, when you pay for hosting, you don't just pay for space like gigabyte to host the file. You also pay for bandwidth. What that means is how much of data, of people, of data can be transferred within a given time. So the more people you have, the more data you transmit, the more bandwidth you consume, and the more you pay for hosting. You understand? So that is why you see commonly a lot of hosting use security like API key. That is just to ensure that, okay, if you are not authorized to access this API, you should not use it. Because if you are using it, you might not necessarily be like causing direct damage to our dApp or database or infrastructure, because it doesn't mean, API doesn't mean you give loophole or they are hacking into it or not. No. But there's other different ways of causing damages, which can be like normal user might just be costing you to pay like 1,000 USD per month for hosting. But then there are people that are now using bots and a lot of things to scrape your data. They might even be using it to create another dApp or app that sell. You understand, things like that? So in such a case, you may end up spending, maybe you should be spending like 100, 200 or 1,000, spending like double, 2,000, 3,000. Whereas those that are actually paying just below maybe 500 or 700 or so. You understand what I'm saying? So that is why they come about that API key, so that if you want to have access to my resources, my API, for example, you show me, have you gotten paid? If it's paid, have you paid? If you have paid, you would have access to a key that is specific to your account, and that would have limit how much call you can make, how much bandwidth you can use per seconds, per minute, per hour, per day, per month, and maybe per year, depending on the subscription plan. So with that, I'm able to be profitable. I'm able to know that, okay, people are paying, then I can pay more for hosting and turn profit. So, but even those that are free, that's why they always have limit, very strict limit, because every API call you make, keep it in mind, is that you are actually using resources of those that own that API, and you are adding to their bandwidth, you are adding to their expenses for hosting, server, internet services, security, and all those things. So that is why a lot of these platforms usually require API key. Now, we have SOAP or REST APIs. This can be simple object access protocol API. They use XML. I remember then that XML was a thing. When I was doing blogging, then I was a blogger also building blogs. And then this kind of blog spot, if you remember, if you have been online in those early days of like when Facebook and things like that were just also coming up, when we have things like blogspot, hosting was not this cheap then, so you cannot usually host and pay for your blogs easily, the domains and things like that. So you will usually need to host free on blogspot, then you can now buy domain to connect with it. So I did all those things back then as well. I think I started into those blogging around 2009. Yeah, around 2009. So when you look at that to when you'll be watching, I don't know how long that has been, but I know if I calculate that, at least I'm almost 20 years as of now that I'm recording in this online something. So then we use this XML because it was built with XML. So I think extended markup language or something like that. So it will be structured in XML, but that isn't as popular, like it's suitable for them where rigorous compliance and security are needed, because XML is very strict kind of structure. So I remember those stress we go through to do a lot of things we did then. So now we have REST API or representational state transfer. So, or they call it RESTful API. So representational state transfer API, these are more flexible and easier to work with compared to SOAP API. So RESTful API can use various data formats like JSON or XML, but the most widely popularly used both in Web2 and Web3 is JSON format, which we have learned in the previous one. Remember JavaScript object. So that's which using standard HTTPS request method makes it easier to transfer through the default internet protocol, such as GET, PUT, POST, and things like that. So this GET is you retrieve information, you send information. So it's like when you are doing Facebook or Twitter post, for example, or some social network in Web3 like Solarplex and things like that. Yeah, I use them where you can check them out. It's actually giving me a lot of response and engagement now, even as a beginner. So when you join, you can search for me, Solomon Foske or Foske, yeah, Foske there. You should be able to connect with me there. So it's also a platform you can check out. Not actually sponsored, it's just what I've seen that it performed better than my Twitter, even though I have like 2,000 times follower on it. So you send the GET, then post is when you post your tweet, post your article, then PUT and some other things like that. So using APIs in Web3 development. In Web3 development, API can be used to interact with blockchain data, execute smart contracts, and integrate various decentralized services into your application. The asynchronous nature of JavaScript, remember I said it, particularly with features like promises and async/await, make it excellent language for handling API requests in a non-blocking manner. So if you don't understand this, then go back to this lesson, JavaScript asynchronous programming promise. I won't go back to it. So you learn non-blocking and all those things. This means you can request data from an API and continue executing other code while waiting for response, which is crucial for maintaining a responsive dApp or the website. Now, like we explained it earlier there, your code keep running, you waiting for response. So just imagine user minted, and then when they minted, they need to wait for feedback. You can see this feedback coming instantly because we are not actually connected yet to the blockchain. We'll do that when we get to the smart contract development with Solidity. So on Ethereum you use, then on other ones like non-EVM we use Solana for Solana, for example, which we'll work on as well. So it will take a while to get a feedback, so and then you can display it. For you to display it, you need to use all these asynchronous awaits, take the promise, process it, and things. So how do you now fetch data with JavaScript API? Sorry. You know, let's see example. When you want to fetch data, you can see it as asynchronous function, because you need to mark it as asynchronous. You should have learned that previously, because it tells your JavaScript compiler that this function is not a one-time function you just pass and then close that if it's not useful. No, it should be open as long as whatever call it makes still awaits to receive the promise and then process it. So when it fetches the data, we'll still see it. Then in this example, these are the things we did. Let me copy it out so you can see it clearly. Okay, we'll still see it here. Let's just learn some things here. Like fetch blockchain data is an asynchronous function that make a network request to a specified API URL. So we still do the practical there, URL, and this is the URL. So the first thing, like I told you, you need to have the API endpoint. We call it endpoint. So like data, that is where the developer on this created their own API. So you should be able to connect with your endpoint, and that's what I said, that's why it's easy for them or able for them to get it, to make sure you can't access this page to fetch data except you can provide specific key which might be only available for you after you have paid. And if it's free, it could also be easily limited. So then you fetch the data. Fetch is used to make the network request. It returns a promise that resolves to the response of the request. So you see it asynchronous. This try and cache is just to cache error, but const API, this is what we want to do. So we just put it in a variable. You remember a container, and you remember we use const. That's to ensure, imagine somebody trying to, find a loophole into your dApp and then change the API call you are making to point to another scam platform that can then, scam your user. So you don't want that. That's why it's good to be in here. So now we have the fetch to undo the response. You see await fetch API URL. This we have put it as a variable. Then we pass it. So it's the same thing as passing this URL inside here, so but a much better way. And then passing the response to JSON. So const, you see we keep using const to ensure the data, because we don't expect to change. If you are calling receiving the data, even if you want to adjust some things, you should make sure it's kept as pure as possible. Not you should be able to manipulate it. So await response.json, then handling the fetch data, e.g. display it in the dApp. Then you can start displaying and handling those error, you see, and all those things. So you see all the analysis are there. Let's now use it in our code. Previously we just got this. It's displaying nothing over here. Let's try and see. Can't go further than that. So we need to come expand the existing capstone code. Then when we enhance it, here is how you can set it up and update the existing code. So the API section, use CoinGecko. So what we are going to use is CoinGecko API, which you will see. Then we fetch the data we implement the asynchronous JavaScript to fetch data from the CoinGecko API. Then we use the method to request to the API endpoint that provides price. So usually, how do you know which endpoint to use? You need to consult the documentation of the API. That's why it's a custom. Any platform that provides API for the public to use, even for internal use, there's always a documentation to give you at least basic of what each endpoint are. Okay, when you need price, this is the endpoint you will use. When you need this is the endpoint you use. So those are not issues. You always get that. Then processing data. Once you receive the data, pass it as JSON and extract the required information, such as the current price of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana. Then displaying data, update the DOM with the fetch data. You can create a new section in your HTML to display this information. So here are example of how you could modify the existing code. You can see it now. We can add this particular code. Then the HTML also will update it to include a section called crypto prices, which the DOM manipulation we have learned in previous lesson here. Okay, previous one before this. Yeah, I think that should be page 3. We're on page 4 now, so we learned how to do that. So those are the two things we need to do. So you can copy that yourself, but if you want to just be super sure you have the correct code, then you can just copy everything from scratch here. Copy, I open up and clear this and paste. Yeah. So function to fetch and display function. This one also is like an asynchronous function. This one should be called emulating, asynchronous emulating function. That means this isn't as if it's async, it should be assigned with a async at the beginning. This keyword is important. If not, it will be treated as. But remember when we did this in previous lessons, we just tried to pretend to be async. So, but now we are using the async for real. So that's the first code. Let's fix the code. I will be back to explain some things. The CSS is intact. We didn't really need to change anything here. So except for then, we need to change this. Yeah, so let's see the HTML as well. So if we load this back, it's refreshing. You can see it that bam, instantly it's displaying price. So let me try and stretch this out a bit. You can see. So we can decide to console log the JSON objects. What do we see? Where is it? So extract data. You see the data we received here. You can see it. Tell the AI console log the JSON data. Let's see what it will do for us. Yeah. Let's refresh. So you see, this was actually what is happening here. That we let's take this off. So we are this try and catch is just to make sure we catch error in case anything goes bad or not as expected. Then you see it gives us the error. So you wrap it inside the try and catch. But aside that, you can use this directly. But this is like the best option to ensure you don't get stuck or have issue and then don't know what is wrong. Now you can see const URL and you see cons. These are situations you use cons because every of the data must not be, they must remain pure for what they are. So that's why we always use const. Then you see this now, console log data, and this tells us. So this was what you receive await fetch from here. Now let's go here, follow this link. Yeah, open it. So as you know, CoinGecko is one of the top platforms that provides, let me go to the home page. We'll see. They provide price just like CoinMarketCap. I think they are like ranking next after CoinMarket. So you can see it now. So they provide prices of lot of crypto, hundreds of thousands of them also. Say market cap, dominance, all those things. They provide it every second. These things get updated automatically. So you see them. So that's what you are trying to get. And for you to get this same information, they built an API to make it accessible. And that API endpoint is what you need to access. And this says if you need the API, for example, if we go to, let me duplicate this. Then let's go to API. So because the first thing you should do is to locate the API you want to use, and CoinGecko. I'm coming. CoinGecko API. So we use Presage. So some of you know I use this decentralized search engine, and it also aims you some crypto as you use them. So if you want to check them out and you want to use my file, you can let me know. Now this is it. You see. So the most reliable comprehensive data API for trader and developer. So you can see now, imagine a lot of things people can build when they have current prices. So it already tell you, see, endpoint category description, simple coins, contract, assets category, you need for NFT exchanges, you understand. So you will see we are using this endpoint now, API version 3 simple / price. Then what's the price, the ID? You see simple, then we can state price, the simplest, fastest, and to call the latest price of crypto asset by ID or contract. Do you see it now? So it depends on any one of them, but we are using it, and they will always give you example. This now is what? It's a JSON object. So they are telling you this is what it will return for you. Then you can now iterate through it to see the one you want to. So that's what is actually happening here. When you look here, we got this. Do you see it? If I bring it down, do you see it? All this, we don't need it. But you can see the prices, but it comes with a lot of other things we don't need. So that's why we now iterate around it. You see it, we pick it, then we extract the precise data we need. That, okay, Bitcoin price, that will be .USD. You can see it. This is the USD object. So it asks Bitcoin. Then you ask, inside the object, it asks the USD. Then which asks the value of the amount it's going for. So that's what brought about this. You are seeing that was done here. You can see it. Data.Solana. So which means you can as well output other ones you want to get outputted here. So if we want to output any other one, we just need to add it, and then, but be careful when you are using APIs like this. They are free and they have limit. So if you are developing, they have, I think they have paid version. So if you are developing, I think there's a maximum number of calls you can make per day. So I know when you are developing, you may be tempted to be refreshing. Each time you refresh, you are making a call. So they are not concerned if you are testing or not. So you need to be careful that, okay, your app is up to a level that, okay, within 5-10 trial, you can get some things right. If not, you might be locked up and need to go and maybe open another account or pay for it. You get things like that. So, but you can see now that we have this price, 52,391. 28.43. If we refresh now, because the prices changes from time to time, you see retrieving, you see the prices have changed. So the same if you click it here, you can always see. So we are just now making this raw data, JSON data, process, like interactable. User will never want to interact with this. So to make it into a good user experience presentation. So that's what you're actually seeing here. And you can see it that I was able to do API, simple price, Bitcoin, and all those things. So we can add as many other ones we want to add here. Like now Solana, if I want to add any other one, let's say something like Jupiter, and then let's refresh. You know, it's only showing like Solana now. So let's refresh it. Save, then it will refresh. So let's say the JSON, you can see that we now have Jupiter. You see it, and this is the price. And we as well, do we have it displayed there? Let me stretch this out. Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana. This isn't displaying. Do you know why? Because you see that we are able to have it, but we are not displaying it here. And a lot of other things are coming that are not actually useful, which also is like consuming our own data, and the other people we are bandwidth, and other people we are also calling. So those are part of where GraphQL come in to make sure whatever we don't need, usually mostly will not come with. A lot of things are coming on that we don't ever need. You can imagine all these things, a lot of things. And even apart from these ones are just showing us calls we can make with them. But at times, these API are not as simple as this. They have different features. You know, this one is like price. At times, they may have price details and other details that we don't need, like 10, 20 details in just that API. And we need to just use some single thing. Or we need other features now. Then we need to call another endpoint, making call to multiple endpoints. You understand? All those things consume time and resources. So we don't have it here because of the way we built this, the way we say it should display it. It doesn't have any way to display. So if we try to do this, and then we do, let's say Jupiter, even though the Jupiter display at the top, I think alphabetically, but let's put it here to Jupiter price. So if we save it, it will still show Solana price, I believe. You see, still showing Solana price because we need, so we can just like here now, let's see data dot Solana dot, oh sorry, data dot Jupiter. We have Jupiter. Oop. Jupiter dot USD. Let's try this. Each time this page refresh, we are making a call, so you can see it now. So it's just a better way to make it neater. That's why we can just deal with this directly and do const. Jupiter price is already here for us. So then we can just put the name here, Jupiter price, and that's it. Then we perform the same thing. So you can see it now, and we have it here. So you can see this, and as usual, you have your data. So that's I believe we have been able to really go through, and you see fetch price. We just call this function. Like I told you, JavaScript function does nothing. They are just there. They need a trigger. So most times when you declare them, you need to call them, and you call them empty like this. Or if, for example, you remember it's an argument. If they have argument, you pass the argument to them, then they will get activated. If not, either call it alone like this or call it inside other things like this one. Now will run. They will run. And they don't wait for anything, they will run. So when you call them there, then you will get them activated, like I think we did on here previously. It's a simulate token, and then we pass token amount, because it takes amount, then use the amount too. So, but this doesn't take in anything because we're actually dealing with API call. So, and since the API call didn't request us to pass, but if it does, then we'll pass whatever we need from here, then we send it to the API, like the API key and other things like that. But some may not need you to pass the API key through it. So it all depends on things like that. And when you are dealing with API key, you need to be careful. I think there are some things you use for it. I can't remember right away, to ensure that your API key is not exposed. So you can just ask the AI tool, and that's why I always include things like this, resources, to read more. So I just remember to chip it into you, but we are not doing it because this API we are using didn't even lock it, so it's all free, though it places very strict limit on it. That's, you can see here now, and we understand effective using API. It's crucial for developing dynamic interactive Web3 application. So we now see a basic quick crash course of basic things. What is API, why you need them, types, and the reason you need it. You have seen it now. So, and we are able to do a practical example of it to make use of this and have it fetch this price for us. So from there, we'll be taking the code, and like I told you, there are a lot of lapses in API directly. This REST API directly, the RESTful API like that. So, which we will learn more. Like I told you, a lot of things could come, and then you may need, like this endpoint now is just price. So we may need to call other endpoint, or you get things like that. And if they didn't separate it like that, then we may call something that give us price, age, data, past trading, price trend, and all those things that is not needed. But yet they will consume both the bandwidth of the host we are calling it from, and we ourselves that are receiving it, before we sieve out unused something. This is still a bit cool. It's still just basically what we need. So I think that's it. You've learned a lot here. Got stuck, need support, use the post. Comment below. Remember, if you have questions about API, don't go and ask it under array. You won't get answer, or your question will be deleted. Ask specifically under the specific lesson. So it helps you get specific answer, and future students that are coming after you can read and learn, and it will be helpful to that specific lesson they are learning, which will be much helpful than they reading question and answer that is about GraphQL under API. So if you got anything about GraphQL, wait till you go through this lesson and post it there, not here. So, and join the DPU official Discord, so you can network and connect with different opportunity with other Web3 developer worldwide. At the same time, you get live update and from our official dProgramming university. But if it is specific question and help for courses, Discord, I won't answer you there, or any of the tutors or instructors. So ask here, please. That's it. Thank you so much. It's been a wonderful time together. I've covered a lot, and now you can handle not just JavaScript, but use it to make an API call, receive it, break it down, pick what you want, and eventually display it on your site. So you can see it, display it as you want. However, you can make it a table, you can do anything from there. Once you have the data, everything, the ball is in your court, you do it the way you like. So that's just it. I will see you in the next lesson. Thank you. I remain Solomon Foske of the Programming University. Keep the program spirit and love, and please always do good to humanity and nature with your programming skill and not evil, to make the world and the universe a better place for us all. Peace and bye.